our ideal here, our goal through the Torah Devorah, the Ramak is trying to teach us how I can become a chariot, the seat, the vessel, the conduit for Chesed in the world. Hashem is the Baal Chesed. I want to be able to draw that into the world. Hashem is Chesed. How do I do that? By myself being connected to the Midah of Chesed, and like Rabbi Nachum Mishkamz is teaching us, by connecting each one of the moments of my life to Chesed, right? Revealing the Chesed, and therefore, back in the piece of the Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem said that there's really two. Hashem only is doing good for us. Hashem only wants good for us and only does good for us. Brought the pasuk from Eicha that bad things don't come from Hashem. So why do we experience bad things or difficult things? He said there's two kinds of chesed. Sometimes it comes in a revealed way and sometimes in a concealed way, right? And it depends on us. If I'm a totally clean, pure, worked out receptacle, a kli, to be able to receive the good, so then it'll come down in a revealed way. If I'm not, whether it's based on my actions or my thoughts or my speech in this incarnation or in a previous incarnation, previous Gilgul, so it will come down in a challenging way, in a difficult way, right? But each one of them is good. It's just revealed. It's concealed. It's covered up. And therefore, brought the story of Rabbi Akiva with the chicken and the donkey, right, and the candle, right, and it would let him in the city. And he said everything that happened when the candle blew out and the chicken got eaten and the donkey got eaten. And he said, Kol the David Achmana, the Tavavid. Everything that Hashem does is for the good. So he said, really, that's our job. Whenever you have a moment, how do you turn around the hidden, the concealment of the good, to open up the curtain and find the actual good that's hidden there? Is by in any moment of challenge, of difficulty, being mechazik yourself, strengthening yourself in emunah, in that even that I can't see the good in this particular action, this particular moment, I believe with total faith that everything that Hashem does is good, that Hashem only wants good for me, and this is good for me, even though I can't feel it, I can't see it, I can't understand it. By strengthening yourself at that moment, so then you sweeten the judgment at that moment, you sweeten the concealment, and you open up the gates a little bit, you open up that curtain a little bit. That's what we said last time, and now just a conclusion, because I think it's an important last point here that the Baal Shem Tov brings out. You know, Rabbi Akiva was the generation after Nachum Ish Gamzu. Some say he was a student of his. But Rabbi Akiva taught us that sentence that everything that Hashem does is for the good. And Nachum Ish Gamzu said, also this is for the good. So it seems like it's the same thing, right? Seems like the same principle, right? But it's a little bit different. So let's understand. And then what we said above, this is the derech of, like Rabbi Akiva, like we said, that everything is for the good. But there's another path that a man can take, which is even more strong, even more powerful than that general sense of everything is for the good. And this is the path of the faith of also this is for the good. In other words, that he believes in Hashem Yitbarach, that Hashem is good and benevolent and compassionate with the 13 midot of compassion in an infinite sense. That it's not just that in the future I'll see that this will be for my good, meaning I got a flat tire and I was late to my appointment, right? So, and afterwards I'll see that really, it saved me from something else. That also in this the bad itself, it's actually good, right? Meaning, it's not just saving me some, for instance, like the classic story, the guy, is late to his flight, and then, the flight, everybody's heard stories like that, right? That in this bad itself is even a greater good than whatever good I thought I was going to have. Just like in the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu. You guys, I think we said this story of Nachum Ish Gamzu. The most well-known story is that when he went to go pay off the Roman authorities, and he had a box of gold, and everybody knows the story. Yeah. No, we'll say the story. The Romans made a gzera, they made a decree, and so they were trying to think who are we going to send to go bribe them to nullify the decree. So they said, let's send Nachum Ish Gamzu, because Nachum Ish Gamzu he's melumad benisin. It's normal for him to have miracles happen to him, right? So let's send him. So they sent him with a big box of money, of shochad, of bribery money, and they and he goes, and on the way he stayed in an inn in some not Jewish city, whatever, somewhere on the way. It doesn't say where. And they said he's coming from the Jews. Maybe he's got some money in that box. Let's go see. They waited till he was asleep. They checked the box, took out all the money, and they filled it up with dirt. And the next morning, he woke up. He opens the box. He sees it's full of dirt. What would you do? Go back home, right? So what did Nachum Ish Gamzu say? Gamzu l'tova. He said, call the Mishtara, right? The Mishtara is maybe the ones that stole it, right? So he said Gamzu l'tova, and he kept on going, right? And he goes there, and he goes to the in front of the king, and he says, "This is from the Jewish people. It's a gift. We'd like you to nullify the decree." And he says, "Have to open it up." They open it up. It's full of dirt. He says, "What are the Jews making a mockery of me?" And then Eliyahu Navi comes in the form of one of the Roman ministers, and he says, "No, no, no. This is special Jewish dirt. This is the dirt that Avram Avinu used. Avram Avinu used to use this dirt, and this is how he defeated all the kings. You throw it, dirt, and it turns into spears, right?" So they said, "Well, let's test it." And there was a battle going on. They took it, and it worked. And so the king came back. Nachum comes. The decree is nullified. You go and take however much money you want out of our treasure houses. Go back. And he went back, and where did he stay on the way back? In the very same hotel, right? Why? You might know why. We learned from Avraham Avinu. The Gemara says that if you have a place that's the regular place that you go to, a regular place that you stay, you should go there, right? It became part of their parnasa. So even though they did that, and they asked him, "What? You're still alive? What happened?" Told them the story, and they said, "Okay, great." So they filled up a bunch of bags of dirt, and they went to the king, and they said, "The dirt that he got is from our courtyard." Right? They said, "Well, let's test it." And they tested, and it didn't work, and they killed him. Right? So that's the story, famous story in the Gemara, right? So that's the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu, right? Here he is. He's in front of the king. He opens up the box, and they said, "Oh my goodness, it's dirt. What are they making a mockery of me?" And he says, "Gamzu l'tova." At this moment, can you imagine how much we'd be sweating? Gamzu l'tova. Unbelievable emunah. ואז בהיות האדם מאמין בדרך אמונה זו, אזי זוכר שגם מן הרעה יתהווה לו טובה. The person has emunah on that level. He really believes that this is good. Nachum Ish Gamzu wasn't like, he wasn't on drugs. He wasn't, he really believed it. He wasn't just saying it. He wasn't hoping that someone's going to write a biography about him, right? Believed it. ושוב נוסף לו עוד טובה גדולה וחזקה יותר מקמייתא. So you see a much greater thing happened to him than would have happened if they wouldn't have stolen the money. He got more money. The decree was nullified, and enemies of the Jewish people were destroyed, right? ביתר שאת ויתר עוז קנה, וזהו החילוק בין דרך מה דאביד רחמנא וכולי ובין דרך גם זו לטובה, והבן כי עמוק עמוקו. Meaning, the way that Rabbi Akiva taught us, which everything that Hashem does is for the good, that's the place where I'm saying in general, all of us in this room believe that, but then there's moments in our day where we don't really feel that, right? But if we believe it on a general level, right, I don't necessarily connect my moment-to-moment experience to chesed. It's just more of a general thing. Nachum Ish Gamzu is saying, right now, right, the cottage cheese spoiled, the tire got flat, the electricity went out, the check didn't come through, we could keep that list going forever, right? All the different things. Also, this is good, right? In this very thing. And last paragraph here. Valken benachum ish gamzu k'shabali yado ha'maaseh im ha'agaz. So therefore, when Nachum Ish Gamzu, when it came had this story with the box of gold. שגנבו ממנו כל הממון והאבנים טובות, that all the priceless gold and precious stones were stolen from him. ומילאו את הארגז עם עפר, and they filled it up with dirt. והובא אל המלכות, and he was brought to the king. והיה אמונתו ביטחונו כל כך בחוזקה. His trust in Hashem was so strong, and Hashem yitbach ad shema gamzu l'tova. It naturally came out of his mouth, right? He believed it. והכן נתהפך לו לטובה גדולה, ישועה ונחמה, יותר ממה שהיה לו אם היה נותן הממון ובנים טובות למלכות. So then it turned out to be even a much greater salvation than what it would be. It could be that this is where the minhag, by Jewish people, if something breaks, what do we say? Mazel tov. Mazel tov. I was once in a shul, and I used the restroom in the shul, and I went to wash my hands, and I put the washing cup in the sink. I didn't throw it down. I just put it down, and the sink fell off the wall. Right. So so I called the Gabbai. I was very close to his Mechavusa, and I said, Reb, I've got bad news. He said, oh no, what happened? I said, the sink fell off the wall. He said, Micha, first of all, we say Mazel Tov. First of all, when something breaks, we always say Mazel Tov, right? Why? I don't know. And we say it at a wedding, we break the glass. But anytime something breaks, if you're in a restaurant here in Yerushalayim and you hear something crash, you'll hear people saying Mazel Tov. Because we want to connect ourselves with Abuchin of Nachum Ish Gamzu, we don't know. We don't know. If you think that it's a bad thing, it's really a good thing. Right? So here he brings from the Toldos Yaakov Yosef that he asked a question about the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu, and after this we're going to go back into the Torah Devorah. He says, how is it permissible for Nachum Ish Gamzu, once he knew that it was dirt, because he knew it before he went to the king, how is it permissible for him to go to the king? Are you allowed to? We have a klal, we have a rule in the Gemara. En somchim ala nes. You can't count on it that that a miracle is going to happen, and therefore go through with some type of irresponsible behavior. Especially you have the safety of the Jewish people was all in his hands at that moment as the representative of the Jewish people in Israel. How was he able to do that? Right? It's a good question, right? So here's his answer. He says that he heard from the Baal Shem Tov, Pasuk says that tzaddik be'emunato yichyeh, that a tzaddik lives in his emunah. Emunah is what gives a tzaddik his life. It's not his bread. It's not his paycheck, right? And so he says, "V'hepech mizeh abe asuka Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai v'lo ata b'yadam." The famous discussion in the Gemara, that should a Jew use energy to try to make parnasa, or should he just learn and do mitzvot and serve Hashem, and Hashem will take care of him? Right? What do you guys say?
Depends on the Jew.
Depends on the Jew. Both? Meaning to do also work and also, right?
Yes.
Right. So it says that Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, he only served God, meaning he didn't make any physical efforts for his parnasa, and his parnasa was given to him, right? So it says, but we should the maskana, the conclusion of the Gemara is that we shouldn't do like that because we're not on Rabbi Shimon's level. Only someone who has Rabbi Shimon's level, and we see that there was many that tried to do like Rabbi Shimon, and they weren't successful. Why? So he's saying that if you really be on the level of Rabbi Shimon, so then it would have been successful. But if you're doing it because that's Rabbi Shimon's level, but you're not really on that level, so right? Maybe a person has to go through a process. I don't know. But the Gemara's conclusion over there is that a person should go out to work and to make efforts to make parnasa, right? But here, Nachum Ish Gamzu, he wasn't doing a shtick. He wasn't putting on a show for people, Gamzu l'tova, but he didn't really believe it. He said Nachum Ish Gamzu be'emunato yichye. His whole life was his emunah. He really believed it. He was really holding on that level. Not like most of us For us, it's a very high level. If we can come to a place when any negative thing happens to us, we say everything Hashem does is for the good. I don't understand why this is for the good, but I believe that it's for the good, right? If we can get to that level, gentlemen, you get an A+. That's a very high level. That's Rabbi Akiva, right? Nachum Ish Gamzu was living on a higher level. Nachum Ish Gamzu, he had so much emunah. He was so deep in his kishkis, his trust and belief in God. This is for the good. He felt it. It's gewaldig. It's filled with dirt. The Roman king is looking at me, says he wants to kill me, right? This is for the good, right? So he was on that level. So if a person's on that level, he actually changes the reality at that moment. So the and so if the reality changes because of his deep emunah at that moment, it's not a miracle. That's natural. That makes sense. Let me explain that just one more minute in it. The nature, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world, is that if you have that level of emunah at that moment, the reality will change. Just like it changed for Nachum Ish Gamzu. We don't see that because we're not on that level. Right? So for us, when we see that happen to Nachum Ish Gamzu, that looks like a miracle. Hashem made a miracle for Nachum Ish Gamzu. But the reality is that Hashem didn't make a miracle for Nachum Ish Gamzu. That's the way that the world runs if you're on that level. That make sense?
How does a person know that he is on that level? When he's supposed to learn based on this teaching, everything is for good. But when he did that, maybe he need to do things, but when he say that everything is for good, then he just rely on that. So is it
Right.
good?
Right. So for us, ein somchim al hanes, meaning Nachum Ish Gamzu, meaning let me explain that piece. It's a great question, and we have to be very careful with this because we can't, we can't we're not allowed to be somach on the nes. We're not allowed to depend on miracles that are going to happen to us. Nachum Ish Gamzu didn't say Gamzu letova in hopes that something in the reality would change, and maybe Hashem's going to send Eliyahu and Avi right now at this moment, and maybe a miracle is going to happen if I just say Gamzu letova so that things will work out. No, he believed that this is good. I don't know. Maybe the king's going to kill me. I don't know. That's also good. I mean, it's a level that it's almost impossible to fathom this level, right? Whatever happens, he senses and he feels and he believes utterly, not conditionally. Like he totally viscerally feels this is good. I'm so living with Hashem that everything that happens at any moment is absolute good from Hashem. And then the hidden goodness becomes revealed. But I'm not doing that. I'm not living with that emunah in order for the good to be revealed, because I already see the good. I already believe that it's good. No matter, meaning I don't use the gauge for goodness is not if I feel the good or I don't feel the good. Right? I'm reading a book right now, interesting book. I forget what it's called, but by a guy named Norman Cousins, who very interesting person who had a very severe illness, debilitating illness, and he healed himself with more kind of natural means against the medical standards. This is in the 1970s. Anyway, he's got a chapter that he writes over there that Americans, I think now it's spread not just to America, are the most pain sensitive or aware, most pain aware people in the world, right? Meaning we gauge our gauge for things is if I'm having pain or if I'm having pleasure, that means it's good or it's bad, right? But it's not necessarily true, right? A person can be experiencing pain because he's suffering from some type of illness, and they can have the same, let's say on a scale from 1 to 10, he's got a level 3 pain, and he can also have a level 3 pain and he's in the gym and he's sweating, right? I mean, pain is not inherently bad, and our sense of is this good or is this not good? Can I see where is this going to lead or it's not going to lead? Can I see how this is a blessing in my life or not? Is not really an accurate gauge. Nachum Ish Gamzu says everything is good, exactly how it is, and then it becomes revealed, right? So anyway, he finishes his he was sure he didn't know how it was going to turn out. He didn't know it was going to turn out, but he knew that he had to go do something for the Jewish people. And he was sure that Hashem's goodness is going to be revealed in whatever way it will be. right? Let's let Hashem write the script, and let's just do our part, right? Is basically what his message was.
So, Rabbi, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How can we? I know that we studied before that there's no such bad things in the world, but people created like the word bad. How can we classify bad things nowadays? Like,
Right.
we always thought that everything Hashem does is for the best, but sometimes, say, Kash B'Shalom, there's like an accident and people get hurt and
Right.
it feels bad for them. So,
For sure.
when can we classify bad things? Like, if everything Hashem does is for the best?
Great question. Great question. And we have to be careful also, I think, before I answer your question, we have to be careful because when we're talking about this subject that everything is good and everything's for the good, that there's also the human element underneath where people are having real suffering and they're in their pain and they're not in a place, when you go to someone who's sitting Shiva, lo aleinu, and you say, hey, everything's for the good, brother, this is a lesson for us. It's not a lesson for us to tell or to impose upon other people. And also, we have to be very real where we're holding with this, and like I know where I'm aspiring to and know where I am. So, experiences, we have experiences that are bad. We have pain that is real, right? And we're supposed to experience right now. Right, tomorrow is Yud Zayin Tammuz. We're about to enter into 3 weeks, where the goal of this 3 weeks is to feel the pain. Is dafka to feel the pain, right? We don't all these things that we don't do. During the 9 days and the 3 weeks, is to resensitize ourselves to the pain of what we're missing with the base of Mikdash and with the redemption, with the Gula. So pain, right? Where there's a place for pain. There's a place to be in pain. There's a time to be in that place, to experience it and to cry and to mourn and to, right? That's on a national level, on a personal level. But if you ask on a philosophical level, how do we define bad or evil? Is the opposite of Ratzon Hashem. It's when a human being does the opposite of Hashem's desire in this world. That's bad. But experiences that happen to us, even though they could be bad, painful, excruciating, but underneath it we believe that it's ultimately good, right? So whenever we talk about this, especially like you talk about the Holocaust, for instance, so we talk about this subject with a lot of sensitivity and with a lot of nuance and a lot of caution, right? For other people's experiences and what they're going through, right? They say Rav Kook, the way that Rav Kook used to be Menachem Ava when he would go to someone's house and they're sitting Shiva, is he would sit on the ground with them and he would cry with them. He would feel their pain. Rav Kook wasn't having his own personal loss at that moment, but he could feel the pain, right? The first Rashi I learned when I was here in yeshiva was Rashi that you guys know when Yosef was sold down to Egypt, and Hashem hid that from Yaakov Avinu. Because Yaakov Avinu wouldn't be consoled. He couldn't be consoled, right? We have the Gemara says that halacha hamet nishkach min alev achrei 12 chodesh, that after 12 months, that a person that Hashem put in our nature, that after 12 months, the soul is able to heal from a loss, right? And Yaakov Avinu wasn't able to heal, right? So, and therefore he had a feeling that Yosef is still alive somewhere, but he couldn't understand it. His mind couldn't make the story out, right? And he didn't have Ruach HaKodesh for those years. You guys know that, because if a person doesn't have Simcha in their life, then they can't have Ruach HaKodesh. They can't have prophecy. And so he couldn't see where with Ruach HaKodesh where Yosef was, right? And he was crying. Who was there crying with him? You guys know? Did anybody see this Rashi? Yitzchak Avinu, his father. Yaakov's father was crying with him. Yitzchak knew that Yosef was alive. He didn't have it concealed from him. And he's imagine the scene, right? He's crying with his son, who's mourning the loss of his son, right? And he knows that the son is alive, so he could theoretically comfort and say, "Look, I know he's alive, right? You'll see him one day again. I know that, but Ruach HaKodesh, my prophecy, right?" But he wasn't allowed to reveal that. Hashem didn't want him to reveal it, so he didn't reveal that. But at least you might think that Yitzchak Avinu was would be not as pained as Yaakov Avinu because he knows how the story's going to end, right? But it says that he cried with him. He sat there and he cried with him, right? Meaning to feel another person's pain. This is very extremely deep, right? It's deep and nuanced. To feel another person's pain, to be with them in their pain of the difficulty of whatever they're going through, and at the same time, you know that everything is for the good, right? You knowing that everything for the good doesn't diminish human pain, right? It helps us overcome our own pain and our own anger and confusion at the events of our lives, right? But it doesn't diminish the actual pain of a moment, right? If you know, lo aleinu, keep using flat tire, it should help, no more flat tires. But person's in the middle of the highway and he's rushing to get to the airport and he gets a flat tire or whatever. He's on the highway, right? He's sweating and he's got to make the call and he's waiting for 3 hours for, right? That's pain. whether he believes it's good or he doesn't believe it's good, it's not fun to do. It's not pleasant, right? But it changes your whole relationship with the events of your life when you have that deeper emunah. Okay, that was a really long parenthesis that of the Baal Shem Tov, but I hope you guys felt like you gained something from that. I feel like it's very instructive. And now we're going to go back into Torah Devorah. Is everybody ready for that?
Yeah.
We're in the 5th parak, and we're talking about, this is the midah of Chesed. And we're in a paragraph that starts Ubatikunim. So, and we said that just literally a 30-second recap. We said the first aspect of Chesed is equivalent to love, to Ahava. And the first aspect of Chesed is loving Hashem, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today more. So with Tikkunim, Teshu Ezu Chassid. It says in the Tikkunim, and also says, I believe, in the Midrash, maybe also in the Gemara. He quotes it here from the Tikkunim. Ezu Chassid. Who's a Chassid? What's the definition of a Chassid? Who knows? And don't say Shtrimal and Payas. Someone who wants to do extra.
Pious?
Pious. Right. Chassid means pious, right? So usually we talk about the level of tzaddik, and then above that is the level of chassid, someone who goes beyond the letter of the law. So the way Chazal say it is hamit chased im kono, a person who does chesed with his creator, right? It's a very interesting language. We're not going to go into it now because it should say hagomel chesed im kono, the one that bestows chesed on Hashem. But you can't really give chesed to Hashem. Hashem doesn't need anything from us, right? So it's really reflexive, but we'll speak about it maybe another time. But in the very basic pshat is a person who does chesed with Hashem. Lefi shegmilut chasadim she'adam oseh b'tachnonim, because the chesed that a person does in this world, in the physical world, tzarich sheyichaven ba tikun elyon dugmato. He has to have kavana, but he's making a tikkun, an exalted tikkun, by doing this, which we're going to explain that in very simple terms. And that's called doing chesed with Hashem, right? So let's understand this in a very, very basic level. We don't have to be Kabbalists to be able to fulfill what it says here. Kabbalists, they have their Siddur, they've got, tons of names of Hashem, and for each mitzvah, there's all different special kavanas with, very, 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 almost scientific, mathematical, right? One of my rabbanim is a big Kabbalist, but he jokes about it. He jokes about the technicality of Kabbalistic intentions. And so one person told him, he said, I was learning in the Arizal, and it looks like mathematica. And he said, lo, it's lo mathematica, it's a microbiologia. It's microbiology. You understand? They're very, very fine, right? So sometimes it can be confusing, and you kind of forget the basic things. So he's gonna go through a list of different kinds of acts of chesed that we do in this world. You're doing an act of chesed, and so the Kabbalist pulls out his siddur, and this is a wonderful thing. If he's on that level, he has all the different. But for us, on a very basic level, I'm doing an exalted tikkun right now. What's the exalted tikkun? Hashem wants that this world should be filled with chesed. Olam chesed yibaneh, right? Pasuk says in Tehillim. Hashem wants this world to be filled with chesed. That's Hashem's desire. Hashem didn't make the world in the sense that He's doing all the chesed for us. He made us do chesed with each other, right? So at any given moment, you have a 1 hour window in your day, right? That 1 hour is going to pass. Doesn't matter if you sleep, if you're eating, if you're robbing a bank, if you're sitting and learning in the base medrash, you're doing chesed for somebody. That 1 hour, at the end of the hour, we all just had an hour, right? Did you bring Hashem into the world in that hour? Or did you not bring Hashem into that world, into the world, right? If you want Hashem's world to be filled with something, whatever you do in that hour is going to fill the world with something, whatever it is that you did in that hour. If you want the world to be filled with chesed, you do chesed during that hour. Of course, we can't do chesed every minute of our lives, but by me doing chesed at this moment, I'm fulfilling Ratzon Hashem. And I'm unlocking on high the channels of chesed, exalted spiritual chesed, whatever that means, right? But I'm opening up the world of chesed in the heavens. At this moment, I'm helping out somebody. I'm listening to them. I'm opening the door. I'm bringing them a cup of water. I'm setting up the video for other people that they can watch the show that they can't be here in person, right? I'm smiling at another yid. I'm thinking good about another person. It's so simple to do acts of chesed, right? And at that moment, I'm opening up the channels and I'm drawing Hashem's chesed into this world. That's called a tikkun. And that's called a yichud. There's a unification because the chesed on high is now attached. It's connected and reflecting in this world, right? And that's called doing chesed with Hashem. Why is that called doing chesed with Hashem? Because Hashem says, this is what I want. Will you please do it for me? And you say yes. That's called doing chesed with Hashem. Is that clear? Does it make sense? It's very simple, right? It's very simple. It's very beautiful. It gives strength. What I'm doing is not just because it's a mitzvah and I'm going to get reward for it, right? I'm actually connecting to Hashem's midah of chesed. I'm drawing it down the world, right? And now, says the Ramak, you have to know several midot of chesed and gemilut chasadim of besorin chesed upon men. And listen to what he says now. Each one of those that you do, you should also do with your Creator above. Right? Now you can understand that in two ways. You can understand that I'm also doing chesed with my neighbor, and I'm also doing chesed at that same moment with Hashem because I'm bringing chesed into Hashem's world. Right? So it's a two-way chesed. That's one way you could understand it. Another way you could understand it is I'm doing chesed together with Hashem. Right? Hashem created this world. He says, be my partner. Let's do chesed in this world. I want to do it, but I want to do it through you. Take me with you. Right? So when I do chesed right now, I'm bringing Hashem. I'm doing chesed together with Hashem for this person. Both of those are very, very beautiful kavanas that the Ramak is teaching us. Right? So let's keep going. And this is the way you do chesed if you really want to acquire the midah of chesed. And this I'm going to say, I hope I'm not going to, this is not going to sound too harsh. A person can do many acts of chesed, his whole life can be devoted to chesed. But he might not actually acquire the midah of chesed. Right? Does that make sense? And it's not chalila to diminish the importance of what he did in his life. Right? Meaning a person can spend his whole life overcoming his natural selfishness, which we all have. We all want to take care of ourselves first. But he never really acquires it, that it becomes his nature. It's his, right? Which is also gewaldic. You know, you guys know there's an amazing story in the Gemara in Tainus, and it says that at one time there was a drought in Eretz Yisrael. And so there's a special kind of davening. We fast. And there's a special kind of Shmona Esrei that they used to say in the ancient times to daven for rain. And so it says that Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus, Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, the great Rabbi Eliezer, he went down to be chazan, and he started davening. No rain came. And then comes Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva says, Avinu Malkeinu, Ein lanu melech ela ata. Right? He actually wrote the Avinu Malkeinu prayer that we have today. It comes from Rabbi Akiva from this story. And he said, Avinu Malkeinu, it says there are two sentences, we sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. We only have you as our King, your only King. And then the rains came pouring down.
Rabbi Akiva is a student of Rabbi.
Oh, so Rabbi Akiva was the student of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus.
So how come?
How come? So everybody started kind of humming. Maybe the student became on a higher level than the Rebbe, right? It says Yatza Bas Kol, a Bat Kol came out from Shemaim, and everybody heard it, or whatever experience of Bat Kol, and it said it's not because this one is greater than this one, or this one is greater than this one. Rather, this one is Ma'avir al Midotav, and this one is not Ma'avir al Midotav. This one overcomes his midot, and this one doesn't overcome his midot. Okay, that's where the Gemara leaves you. So the commentaries, there's several commentaries that explain it like this. The Beis Elokim and also the Siduros Shabbos explain like this. They say that Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukanos and Rabbi Akiva were both Balei Tshuva. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukanos came when he was in his mid-late 20s. He came to yeshiva, and Rabbi Akiva came to yeshiva, or really to Talmud Torah, when he was 40. Right? So both of them were Balei Tshuva, and both of them were tzaddikim. They were total tzaddikim. But Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukanos, his nature was congruent to holiness. He had this pure kind of nature. He didn't have not everybody's born with like that. Some people have a difficult nature, right? His wasn't like that. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukanos he had a good nature. He flowed with the mitzvot. It came very naturally for him. He says Rabbi Akiva didn't. Rabbi Akiva had a very difficult nature. Some even say that he had one of the most difficult kind of natural composition that a soul could have. It was very difficult. So Rabbi Akiva had to overcome himself. And when a person overcomes, so it's a much greater achievement than if a person has it naturally, right? So because Rabbi Akiva had reached his levels through overcoming the adversity and the challenge that he had, that's why he was answered more than Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukanos, but not because he was a bigger tzaddik. That's how they explain the Gemara over there. It's a very beautiful Gemara, very fundamental. So here you could say, he says, beautiful. A person spends his whole life doing chesed, even though he didn't acquire the midah of chesed, that's still a very wondrous and beautiful thing. And that's what we're saying. It is a wondrous and beautiful thing. It's a lifetime achievement. And halavai, even if none of us acquire the midah of chesed, that at least we should spend our lives doing chesed as much as we could possibly do. Fill those hours bringing in chesed, making a tikkun elyon, an exalted tikkun, rectification in this world, right? Because if you really, if you want to acquire the midah of chesed, do it together with Hashem, and do it for Hashem. That you're not just bringing chesed in this world because it's a mitzvah and there's reward in that, and even because it's Ratzon Hashem. But I also want to do chesed with you, Hashem. And he's going to explain throughout the different examples how you can do that in a very basic way, right? But when my chesed is directed, right, in both directions, towards this world and towards Hashem, or together with Hashem, so that's how you actually can acquire the midah of chesed. It becomes part of you, right? You live with it. And I think this is just my understanding. Put this in parentheses, and if you don't like it, you can throw it out. But I think maybe one of the reasons why that's true, what the Ramak is saying, is because if I'm not doing it with Hashem, or I'm not doing it also for Hashem, so I'm doing it for myself on a certain level, right? Even I'm helping other people. I'm spending my whole life helping other people, but I'm doing it for myself, to give myself a good feeling, to get reward in the world to come, to do more mitzvahs, right? But if I'm doing it for Hashem, I'm doing it with Hashem, I'm not even thinking about myself, right? This is what you want in the world. I want to do it, right? You know how pure, how clean that is. Test yourselves, gentlemen. I'm going to give you a test for yourself. I'm not going to test you. You test yourself. Next time you have the opportunity to do, it doesn't even have to be chesed, whether in any type of mitzvah, but especially chesed. Try to do it. Say to yourself, I do this revenge just because you want this to be in the world. You want that there should be chesed in the world, or you want that there should be Torah in the world. I'm doing this 100% for you, not for me, just for you. It's very clean. It's very pure, right? And it's very relieving, because you're not, so to speak, in a race for more acquisition of good for yourself in this world, which we're all doing all the time, whether it's financial or spiritual, right? Physical or spiritual. It's a very beautiful thing, and that's how you acquire it. Okay, weiter. And with that introduction, says the Ramak, we'll say that the midot gmilut chasadim are the following acts. Rishona, I think we'll have time for one, maybe two. Rishona b'leidata, everybody still with me? You guys still have energy?
Yep.
We're good? Yeah? Okay, the first one is Leidat Adam, in the birth of man. Tzarich ligmol imo kol tikun lemzono. Right? You have to, when a person is born, you have to give all sustenance to this child, right? You ever see the videos of turtles being born? The sea turtles, right?
Yeah.
Open up the shell, they put on the dramatic music, the walk back to the water, and they go into the water. Shalom al Yisrael. They live their life as a yochid, as an individual in the water. A human being is born. They're so helpless for so long, right? It's very, very, very unusual, among the other creations of the world. Totally helpless, right? And so you have to give its total chesed that you do to take care of this child, right? To give them their panos, to give them food, to take care of them. Story of one of my rabbis, Moshe Weinberger. He said when he was sitting at the Shabbos table, and one of the kids had a dirty diaper, and it was a pretty bad dirty diaper. There's a limit to a father's ability to go into the world of dirty diapers, and so he begged his wife. He said, will you please take this one? And like as all good mothers, yeah, of course, no problem. She picks up the baby, and she goes walking down the hall to go change her, and he hears her saying, "Ravonu Shalom." He said, "Hineni muchan mezuma lekai mitzvah saseh in a Torah shel minis chasadim." Here I am, Hashem. I'm ready. I'm prepared to do the mitzvah of to love my fellow Jew like myself. And he melted in his chair, with like guilt and also with nachas that his wife is such a holy lady, right? Every time you change a diaper, you're fulfilling the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, right? You don't think about it because these are things that naturally you do. Of course, what are you talking about? It's my child. I'm not going to give them breakfast this morning, right? You're doing chesed, or you're doing ratzon Hashem. There's an act of godliness that's happening at this moment, and it's a huge chiddush that even though it comes naturally to you, the Torah doesn't just want. It's not only things that come difficulty are not naturally, right? But everything that you do to take care of a child when it's born, im ken ya'aleh b'dato et ledat bina latiferet. So, for instance, at the moment of birth, when a person's wife is in those crucial moments of labor, of bringing a child in this world, so you do everything possible to make it comfortable, to make it a successful labor, to make it a healthy birth. The child should come out healthy, right? All those things, and he says that you should have in your mind. This is a little bit of a kabbalistic kavana that kind of rare that he puts in the Sefer, like an actual kavana. He says you should have in your mind that Bina is giving birth to Tiferet, right? Bina is like the mother, right? The Bina, that intuition, special intuition, extra intuition was given to women, is giving birth to Tiferet. Tiferet is the son, right? Or the daughter, doesn't matter the child. But Tiferet, like we guys know, there's Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet is in the middle, right? Chesed is masculine, Gevura is feminine, Tiferet, them together make Tiferet, which is right. Tiferet is a little bit to the right. It's not important, but a little bit more to the right. Compassion, meaning you as the man, he's speaking specifically to the man, that to do everything in your power to make it a smooth birth and a healthy birth. Which if she's having difficulty in the labor, so that's called din. That's difficulties. So then the birth of the child could be with great difficulty, right? And it could be not good for the baby. So therefore, you have to do everything in your power to make sure that the birth is smooth and pleasant. In order that the child should be born without blemish. Right, just like we say in Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, Hashem, you should bring out into light mishpatenu. Mishpatenu is another word for tiferet. היינו שיוציא התפארת משפט לצד האור שיהושע הימין ויהיה קדוש ונבדל מן הגבולות. So in order that the tiferet, the child, should come out, and it should be clean, so to speak. It should be meaning clean of any type of blemish, any type of preventable difficulty. ובזה נכלל היותו מכוון במעשיו וקרשו תמיד בחסד. And that is a way that then the child will be able to connect itself to chesed in its life because it was born, so to speak, in that good way. ולהוציאו מן הבינה מצד החסד ואז יצא הוולד מזורז מלובן. And then the child will come out clean and healthy and strong. וכמעט בזה נכלל כל הזרע שבתורה. And here's a very interesting line that the Ramak says. And you can say that in this example, that this is an example of all the mitzvot lo taseh, all the negative mitzvot in the Torah. What does that mean? כדי שלא יעורר תגבורת הדינים שם ויהיה קושי בלידתה חס ושלום. That why does Hashem tell us not to do this, not to do that? Right? What's so bad about eating a cheeseburger? Right? Doesn't make sense. I don't know if in science if they found anything. They always go back and forth, about different things, shellfish and chazir, right? But it's not because it's a physical thing. There's something spiritual. Everything in this physical world is connected spiritually to something in the spiritual world, represents something. Just like if a person is cruel to another human being, right? So it brings spiritual cruelty into the world. So too the physical things that we do. Why do we blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah? First you could say, who cares if it's a kosher shofar? Shem said to blow a shofar. Do we have to really go into all the details? Yeah, the details are really important to us because everything in the physical world is a representation of something in the spiritual world. So when we do, there's certain acts that we do, if we would do them, all the Lota says, the 365 negative commandments, that if we would do them, they bring din into the world. They bring difficulty into the world. Right? So, and our job is, as much as we can, not to bring difficulty in the world. And we go very far in this, especially Chassidim. But even in the Gemara says that le'olam lo yot. I think we said this last time. Lo yotzi adam devar meguneh mipiv. The person should never say a negative word, something unpleasant, like it says that the animal that is tahor and the animal that is not tahor, not pure, as opposed to saying impure, tameh. We go out of our way that we should that everything should be with goodness, with sweetness. Right? I think we did say this last time.
Yeah.
Right. So, and Chassidim, for instance, are very particular about these. It's not just Chassidim, also in the world of Kabbalists, they are. For instance, I think I got one on today. You see, most men's shirts are left over right, right? Chassidish shirts and jackets, they go right over left. And we always do right before left because right represents chesed and left is din, right? When you walk into your chuppah, gentlemen, when those that Bezat Shem something to get married, when you walk into your chuppah, we have a minhag that you walk in your first foot, your right foot should walk into the chuppah.
Also because left is a bad side
Why is it a bad sign?
in politics.
Huh?
The left is always bad.
Oh,
Everything on the left is bad.
Right. Oh, so there you go. I never even thought about that. Right. But when you walk into your home for the first time with your wife, with your right foot, right? Al rega yamin. There's a saying, right? Why do we do that? Does it really make such a difference, right? Physically, it doesn't really make a difference, right? But conceptually, that we constantly want to be doing everything right over left. We constantly want to be bringing in chesed, minimizing din in the world, right? And with our speech with people, with our relationships with people, right? As much as possible, right? When we don't like to speak harshly, we don't like to speak about harsh things. It doesn't mean to avoid speaking about things that are necessary, right? But to be as clean as we possibly can be with it, right? And so he says here, which is what we'll finish here, is that a very important thing is that this is really the yesod. This is the fundamental point of all the negative mitzvahs in the Torah. Is I'm trying to avoid bringing dinim into the world. I'm trying to avoid bringing difficulties in the world to make things as smooth and clean and pleasant as possible in Hashem's world, in order that we can essentially we can be a conduit, a pipeline for Hashem's chesed in the world, right? If you have sometimes you have a person that you're a friend that talks a lot, right? When I say talks a lot, like they don't let you get a word in, right? I remember once being on a car ride with somebody, and at the end of the car ride, and I was a passenger, somebody was driving me, and I got out of the car and I was like, wow, that was exhausting. I didn't even drive. He was driving, but just like, there was no place for me to join in the conversation. And and you feel like if you have to get a word in, you have to get it in as quick as possible because they're already gonna,
It's not a conversation, it's a speech.
right, right. And so that's like that's a kind of like on a parv level. And then you have some relations where a person is kind of like competitive or judgmental, right? Even though it's a friend and it's very subtle, it's not something that's spoken about. It's not a very comfortable atmosphere. It's not an atmosphere that's uplifting. You have a person who's a good listener, who is complimenting. They say good things. They have their speeches, right? It's a pleasure to be around such a person, right? When if you have two people that are giving, I heard, I don't know if I don't know if this is true, but I heard about a rabbi who they have a custom in their house on Shabbos that nobody takes food for themselves. They take and they give to other people, right? And you ask somebody else for it, but we don't take for ourselves because to train themselves they're just to be givers, right? If you be in an environment where that's natural, everybody just wants to, right? There's a joke in Machon Meir, you go down the Tila Sidam, everybody's already putting salads on their plates, make sure there's not enough food to go around. We gotta rush to get, right? But if you go to a place where everybody's worried to make sure everybody else gets, what a beautiful environment to be in. That's the kind of world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be living in. We have to create that world, right? But first, we have to be minimizing as much as possible all types of din, right? And that starts with when a child is born. All those things that you're doing with them, and this is the last thing I'm saying, I promise, is all those things that you're doing to take care of a child, which come naturally, and it's your responsibility, and you'd be a bad parent if you didn't do it. But you're doing chesed. You're drawing down Hashem's chesed in this world. The more you make it good for your child, or for anybody else, or another child that's being born. It's a beautiful thing of bringing chesed in this world. Okay, gentlemen, that was a lot of talking. You felt like you couldn't even get a word in, right?
Exactly.
So we were good listeners.